Welcome to episode 36 of Not Another Moto Pod, hosted by Sam Fury. This week we'll discuss the fireworks, the cheers, and the tears that happened at the 2025 SMX playoff finale at Las Vegas Motor Speedway as we wrap up the 2025 Super Motocross season and look forward to MXON. Let's get right into it. Starting as always with the 250 class, what an unbelievable night of racing from Joe Shimoda, your SMX champion, number one on the night. That's two overalls in a row for Joe, going 1-2 on the day. Really put on when the pressure was on. He showed up in Moto 1, straight up got the win, held off Deegan late after Deegan made some passes, and Joe just looked to be on form for the night. Kind of transferred that pressure over to Deegan for the second moto. Joe could have finished as far back as third if Hammaker won and fourth if Deegan won and won the championship on the day. And Joe said, screw it, I don't want that. I'm going to go win the race. Unfortunately, had that taken away from him by Deegan. Deegan was faster, probably would have won the race. So Hammaker did get by, but Joe, even down to the last turn, made a pass on Tom Vial to go from third to second. That would change the overall on the night, giving Joe the 1-2 scores and the overall, beating Seth Hammaker's 3-1 scores. Just an unbelievable ride by Joe, especially the second moto. Deegan took multiple shots at him. Joe held on for 13 plus minutes. With about 4 minutes left, Deegan took them both down. Joe said he got a dead leg in one of his legs after the incident and had to slow down a bit. Tom Vial did catch him, and Joe just never quit fighting. Joe, like I said, literally the last turn, as Seth Hammaker was crossing the finish line to win the moto, Joe Shimoda makes the pass into second place to take the overall and the championship. Funny enough, at the time of Seth Hammaker crossing the finish line, he was your overall winner on the night. But like I said, Joe was making that pass at exactly that same time and changed the results. So really a cool fact there, but just really an impressive ride by Joe Shimoda. Probably going to be an incredibly underrated ride by Shimoda. A lot of people will go back and think about Deegan's antics and this and that, but Shimoda just fought through it all again for almost 13 plus minutes. It was really cool to see and just see how poised he was, staying under attack for that long and never faltering. Even when they went down, it was an obvious takeout move. They were going at slow pace, of course, but Shimoda was able to remount and get up and take the win and win his first ever 250 title and his first ever, of course, SMX title. The only rider outside of Jet Lawrence and Hayden Deegan now to ever win the SMX title. So really great riding there by Joe Shimoda. Again, incredibly impressed with what I saw on the night. Second place, as I mentioned, Seth Hammaker going 3-1 on the day. Seth doing literally everything he could to try and win this championship. On the track, at least. None of the antics that we saw from Deegan, but Seth going 3-1 on the day, continuing to put himself up front. And as I said, he was the overall winner at the time that he crossed the finish line in Moto 2. Unfortunately, when Joe made that pass, it did change the math there. But funny enough, it would have come down to those 5 penalty points. I mentioned this last week. It would be odd to see if that did happen. But again, as Seth was crossing the finish line, he would have lost the championship by those 5 points. So unbelievable there. Obviously, with Joe taking the overall there at the end, the points, gapped there. It didn't really matter. Those 5 points didn't really make a difference. But again, Seth Hammaker just doing everything he could, riding incredible all night. Had a good start in both motos. Did get passed there by Deegan in Moto 1, but held on for third, and then again took advantage of Joe and Deegan going down to take the win in Moto 2. Third place on the day, Tom Vial, sneaky Tom Vial, doing what Tom Vial does, what he's done his entire 250 career, the entire time that he's been in the U.S., going 4-3 on the day, finishing on the overall podium, actually finishing for the overall SMX podium as well. 4-3, just a bulldog, doing incredibly, it's just underrated how consistent he is. I'm really excited to see what he does. Obviously moving up to the 450 and going back to GPs, but it'll be really interesting to follow Tom Vial's career for the next couple years. But just an unbelievable ride by Tom Vial. Fourth place on the night, Nate Thrasher, sort of a quiet 5-4 on the day. Didn't see much of him with so much going on up front, but really good last two races for Nate Thrasher, finishing fourth overall on the night and fourth overall in the SMX Championship. It's really good to see that Nate kind of still has it. We lose sight of that in motocross a lot. Nate Thrasher obviously much better indoors and has done incredibly well at speedway tracks in the past. In the last few years when we did have those speedway tracks during Supercross, he was a multiple-time winner. So going 5-4 on the day, and again, fourth overall in the SMX Championship. Really great there for Nate Thrasher. Fifth place on the night, Ty Masterpool, 11-6 on the day. Didn't see much of him in Moto 1. He had a bad start, but he made his way forward a bit. And then Moto 2, sixth place is really good for Ty Masterpool. I think he did well last week as well. The week before that, he was fast. Obviously had not great starts, so the results didn't, match how good he looked. But 2 weeks in a row, really good racing there from Ty Masterpool. Again, really excited. Don't know what he's going to do next year, but really excited to see. Hopefully he can find his way to a team and see maybe what he can do in Supercross. Maybe he can become a consistent top 10 guy. And then obviously he is a threat come outdoors. Sixth place on the day, Jordan Smith, 10-7. Kind of similar to what we've seen all year from Jordan Smith. One kind of bad moto, one pretty good moto. 10-7, pretty good on the day, especially after a nasty crash in qualifying. Seventh place on the day, Garrett Marchbanks, bouncing back from last week with a 7-11 scores. Made a lot of passes in Moto 1. Imagine that. That's kind of what Garrett is known for. And that 11th place there in Moto 2 to finish 7th overall. Eighth place on the day, a bit of a surprise here. Lux Turner, 8-13, had two really good starts in both motos, was running top 5 for quite a while in Moto 1 and for about 3 or 4 minutes in Moto 2 there. Did get passed by a couple of the factory guys in Moto 1, and I'm not sure what happened there in Moto 2, dropping back to 13th. I'm sure he must have crashed. But Lux Turner, a breakout ride there. We've seen it a lot in outdoors. Have not seen much of him in indoors, but an 8-13 for 8th overall on the day. Really good riding there for Lux Turner. Ninth place on the day, unfortunately, Hayden Deegan going 2:20 on the afternoon. Obviously, he DNF'd there in Moto 2. Moto 1 rode really well, did not get a great start, rode his way from behind, had an unfortunate collision with Rider D, jumped into Rider D, smoked him, knocked him out. Prayers up for Rider D. He looked to be in good spirits after the race, but we've seen a number of injuries for Rider D, and this is actually the second time that Deegan has landed on Rider D this season. Not really at fault of Deegan either time, not really at fault of Rider either, simple mistakes. That have kind of led to these crashes between the two of them. But again, nothing detrimental, of course, and nothing on purpose there from Deegan, at least in Moto 1 with Ryder. Again, second place, he made some good passes coming up through the pack after he remounted from the crash, just was unable to get Joe there. Maybe if he had had a lap or two more in the race, he would have able to gotten up on Joe's rear wheel and probably have done something. Moto 2, 20th. He was obviously the fastest guy on the track. He obviously could have gone and won the race, and he wanted no part of that. We, of course, know that he was trying to fight for the championship, but multiple attempts to take out Joe Shimoda. Some of them more egregious than others, but increasingly dangerous, it seemed, as he was just cutting across entire turns, just aiming for Joe. I think if they had not gone down, or if Deegan had remounted after their last crash behind Joe Shimoda, we would have seen a full-on WWE takeout move. I think it was coming. I think Deegan at that point was just over it, and he just didn't want to see Deegan win. To see Shimoda win. I think at some point we would have seen that takeout, and it may have led to Seth Hamaker actually winning the championship. But unfortunate for Deegan, goes down with Joe, breaks his own collarbone. I don't know what else to say. It is what it is. We kind of expected it. It should have been black flagged at some point, I believe, based on the amount of attempts. Obviously, again, I talked about how Joe spent about 13 minutes, dealing with this onslaught. But again, it was, to me, getting increasingly dangerous. A love tap in the corner and try to make a good takeout move a few times here and there. Whatever, if they're in the context of racing, but these were no longer in the context. These were just straight up passing by turns, going straight through turns. and trying to get to Joe. Joe just rode really well and, didn't go down until that last one there. Moving on from Deegan, who did get a 5-point penalty on the night as well, which did drop him to fifth in the championship instead of fourth. I don't know how much money he lost. I don't think he cares at that point, but it is what it is. But moving on from that, 10th place on the day, Dylan Schwartz going 18.5 on the day. Really great ride there for Dylan Schwartz. I did not see an 18.5. Yeah, I didn't even notice really him in fifth place. That's a really great ride from Dylan Schwartz. We've seen that from him in motocross, obviously, but have not seen much in supercross. So that's a great ride there. 11th place, Cullen Park, 15.8, bouncing back the last 2 weekends after a rough first weekend in SMX. 12th place, Daxton Bennick, 9.14. Some good starts on the day from Dax. He must have gone down in Moto 2 as he was riding up in fourth early in that Moto. 13th, Parker Ross, 14.10 on the day. Really solid riding from Parker Ross all around on the day. 14th, Levi Kitchen. Did have a crash in Moto 1, riding around in third or fourth, remounted for sixth place. He did look fast on the day, and then, of course, was in fourth place in Moto 2, where it looked like he had a bike issue. He pulled off after letting Joe Shimoda sneakily go by him, but he did pull off with what did appear to be a bike issue. 15th place, Gage Linville, 13.15 on the day. Gage, similar to Lux Turner, was riding up front early in Moto 1. Those guys were fighting for fifth and sixth. Not sure what happened. I know he kind of got attacked by the rest of the crew going back there to 13th, but didn't see much of him in Moto 2. 16th place, Drew Adams. Looked like he had an injury in Moto 1, but obviously started in Moto 2, so not sure if it was terribly bad, but he did DNF Moto 1, so 29 on the afternoon. 17th, Max Anstey going 17.12. Really just didn't get to see much of Anstey throughout SMX. We know he's still recovering, so just unfortunate, but we anticipate that he will be better next Supercross season. 18th, Henry Miller, 12.19 on the day. 19th, Cole Thompson going 16.16. 20th, Justin Rodbell going 19.18. 21st, Hunter Yoder actually going DNS, DNQ, I suppose. He didn't qualify. He did get into Moto 2 after Cole Davies didn't start the race. So DNQ, 17 on the day. Great riding there in Moto 2 from Hunter Yoder. 22nd, Ryder D, who did go DNS, but officially finished 21st in Moto 1 and did score a point. And 23rd, Cole Davies going 22 DNS. Looked to be injured yet again there in Moto 1. Had a nasty crash in qualifying, and he did put on socials that he was suffering already from a UCL injury in his thumb. He did have surgery on that today. Looking at the championship points on the year, Joe Shimoda wins your SMX championship with 167 points. Seth Hamaker is 23 back with 144 points. Obviously, that movement with the large points gap changed, with Joe winning the overall there and Seth getting second. It was much tighter as Seth crossed the line, as I mentioned earlier. Third place overall, Tom Bial, 127 points. Fourth place, Nate Thrasher. Awesome from Nate. Fifth place, officially, Hayden Deegan. He did lose 5 championship points again, so that did drop him from fourth to fifth in the overall SMX championship. Moving on to the 450 class, where things were not as hectic, but we did get some fireworks, at least there at the end for Jet Lawrence. First on the night, Jet Lawrence, yet again, going 1-2 on the day. That second place in Moto 2 actually is the only Moto of any SMX finale ever. So out of 6 that he did not win. So just really unbelievable riding from Jet Lawrence on the night. What do you expect from your now 3-time reigning SMX champion? He's an alien. Moto 1 had a decent start, made a mistake early, and rode around in fourth for a while, was able to finally get around Justin Cooper, and then did make the pass on his brother, and they had pushed up on Eli Tomac, who was in the lead at that point. And Jet just made a great move on Eli and took the win. Imagine that. Again, he's the fastest guy on earth. I don't know what else to say about Jet Lawrence. Second moto, it did look for a while that he might be settling, or he looked uncomfortable. Something looked wrong. He sat in third for a really long time, and for all but 2 laps of the race, the final 2 laps, Hunter Lawrence was going to be your champion. Jet finally did put in a charge with about 2 minutes left, was able to put in like 6 seconds into Eli Tomac, all of a sudden it was ridiculous. I don't know where it came from. Um, yeah, Jet moved in a second quickly with about a minute and a half left in the race. So a minute and a half plus a lap. And Jet Lawrence is your SMX champion yet again. It was really weird to see him crying on the podium, understanding that he felt so bad for winning. Um, for taking it away from his older brother. It was really weird to see, but I mean, you can understand how Jet feels. If he was in Hunter's position, you know that he would be just as upset as Hunter. And you got to feel for Hunter in this situation. But Hunter knows that Jet is an alien, and Jet will likely go down as one of the greatest all time. Jet could retire right now, and I think he's on my Mount Rushmore, to be quite honest. He's that good, and he has shown every bit of potential to be the absolute GOAT when it's all said and done. He's still only 22 years old. He's just a ridiculous human being on a dirt bike. So props to Jet there. Second place, as I mentioned, like I said, you got to feel for Hunter Lawrence going 3-1 on the day. He had control of both motos at one point. Moto 1, Eli did finally get by him at some point to take the lead. But Hunter held off Jet and Jay Coop for a while. When Jet finally got past Jay Coop, he made a beeline for Hunter, made the same exact pass on Hunter that he did on Jay Coop a lap or two prior, and then he set sail for Eli there. But Hunter rode well. We know he was under the weather this week, rode well to hold on to third there. And then in Moto 2, he got the start, and he just rode unbelievably to hold off Tomac the entire race. You know Tomac wants to beat these kids. You know he's tired of being on the podium next to these kids and behind them. So you know Eli was putting on a legitimate charge there. And just Hunter rode great to win that moto, and just unfortunately it wasn't enough after the Moto 1, dropping back to third. If he had been able to hold off either Eli or Jet in Moto 1, he would have been your overall winner for the championship. But regardless, an unbelievable ride and an unbelievable night by Hunter Lawrence, who again was under the weather and still rode great. Third place on the day, as I mentioned, Eli Tomac going 2-3 on the day. Led there in Moto 1 for quite a while until Jet was able to pass him. Moto 2, he was sitting behind Hunter for a minute, and then Jet just made this unbelievable charge, and Tomac lost a lot of time. Held on for third place, of course, and third place in the championship. Your podium here in the overall, Jet, Hunter, and Eli was your podium, of course, for the SMX playoffs in its entirety as well. Like I said, Eli, you can tell that he likes the Lawrence brothers, but you got to know that he is increasingly pissed off, continually finishing right behind them on the podium. Sharing the podium with them is one thing, but knowing that they keep getting the better of him cannot sit right with Eli Tomac, a champion of his caliber. So I'm really excited to see what Eli has for the boys next year, especially in Supercross, where we've seen Eli make a lot of hay lately and still be one of the guys consistently. Fourth place on the day, maybe a surprise, Ken Roczen going 5-4 on the afternoon. He looked really spicy. He looked really good. He held the pace in both motos. He made late race passes in both motos. Just a vintage ride from Ken Roczen. Really excited to see what he has next year and to see if he can continue to be one of the guys up front. Ken Roczen did, of course, finish fourth in the championship as well, edging out Jay Coop there with the fourth overall on the night. Speaking of Jay Coop, he did go fifth on the night, going 4-6. Looked good in both motos. Again, similar to Kenny, had a lot of speed, a lot of pace. Did unfortunately crash in Moto 2. That took him out of third place and dropped him back a bit. So unfortunate to go 4-6 there. He probably could have gone 4-3, maybe 4-4 on the night and taken that fourth spot overall from Ken Roczen and would have been fourth in the championship as well. Sixth place on the day, RJ Hampshire, 6-5 on the afternoon, about where we expected him after the first two rounds. Just really solid riding from RJ Hampshire. Seventh place, Cooper Webb, going 8-7 on the day. Eighth place, Joey Savacci, going 9-8. And here's that, Webb, Joey, Barsha, what would have been Ferrandis thing. I mentioned this last week when Webb went down, Ferrandis took his spot. Now Ferrandis went down here in Moto 2, and Webb is rightfully back in his spot in the 7-8-9 range. So Joey Savacci going 9-8 for eighth place. Justin Barsha going ninth overall, going 11-9 in the motos. 10th place overall was Justin Hill. A good bounce back from Hill after a rough two first rounds, going 14-11. Similar for Shane McElrath, who got 11th overall on the day, going 16:10. A really good bounce back, who's finished 17th the last two overalls, so an 11th back where Shane should be. 12th place, Cody Schock. Great riding overall in this SMX playoffs. First time kind of fully dipping his toes in the 450, quote unquote, supercross class for Cody Schock. Obviously, it is super motocross, and he has done motocross on the 450 before, including this season. But good to see that he has it, indoors as well with some of those skills. So 13-13 for 12th overall for Cody Schock. 13th overall, Benny Bloss, 12-14 on the day. 14th overall, Chase Sexton going 7-19, so that's 7 and a big old DNF there at the end. We all saw the crash, a really nasty crash, knocked him out for quite a while. It was about 4 minutes that he was laying there on the track before he finally got carted off. Did say that he only had mild concussion and then some shoulder issues. Will probably knock him out of MXON along with Hayden Deegan. So unfortunate there that Eli Tomac was the only MXON USA rider to make it through the final round of the playoffs. This, of course, is the third year in a row in all 3 years of the SMX playoffs that Chase Sexton has failed to finish the third round. Maybe he just needs to boycott these, write it into the contract. I'm not showing up for round 3. It's a health issue at this point. Unfortunate there. Sexton was in 4th and did go backwards in Moto 1 and looked to be riding well in Moto 2 until, again, just a nasty crash. Just a really unfortunate. Not sure what exactly happened. We didn't get to see the full thing, but he endoed pretty good into the face of that roller going into the back section there. But again, Chase is incredibly tough. Chase has taken some of the gnarliest crashes in the sport over his time in the 450 class and has always bounced back, fortunately. So prayers up there for Chase Sexton. 15th place, Valentin Guillaume, 19-12 on the day. Good moto there in Moto 2. 16th overall, Dylan Ferrandis, finishing in his customary 10th place in Moto 1, and then did DNF. Moto 2 had a really nasty spill off the start, tipped over at a pretty high speed, and did a couple flips there, and did not look to be in good shape. I do believe he walked off at some point. 17th, Dean Wilson, 18-15 on the day. 15th, that's his best moto finish in the SMX playoffs so far this season, so good for Dino there. 18th, Harry Kulas, 17-16 on the day. 19th, Marshall Welton, 15-20 on the day. 20th, Derek Drake, 20-17. 21st, Grant Harlan going 21-18. And 22nd on the day, Mitchell Harrison going 22-21, therefore 22nd place in the overall. As I mentioned, points championship, Jet Lawrence, 166 points. Hunter Lawrence, second place, finished 15 points back of Jet. There was actually a point in Moto 1 where they would have been tied on points going into the second moto. That would have been unbelievable yet again. I'm not sure who would have won the overall based on the tiebreaker. I would imagine it would have been best Moto 2 score, but Eli was winning, Hunter was in second, and Jet was in third. And there was actually a point again where Hunter and Jet were tied for the championship points, which would have been unbelievable for a second year in a row that they would have had a tiebreaker settle the winner. Third place, Eli Tomac, 135 points. Fourth place, Ken Roxon. Again, really good riding there for Roxon overall through these races. 117 points, just edging out Jay Coop, finishing with 115 points and fifth place on the afternoon. That's it. That's the end of the season. The end of the 2025 SMX League, quote unquote. That's what they're calling it now. No more Supercross, Motocross, or SMX. We, of course, have World Supercross, MXON, all these things coming up, all these off-season races. This may be the last episode of the podcast for the year. We may jump into MXON. I haven't decided quite yet. We'll see if there are any interesting storylines after the race. Obviously, here with Deegan and Chase getting hurt, kind of tips the scales in Australia's favor yet again. It does look like Justin Cooper is going to drop down to the 250 to take Deegan's spot, and RJ Hampshire will take over Chase Sexton's spot on the 450. I would imagine that would jump Eli Tomac into the MX1 class instead of the MX Open class to give RJ a better chance in the Open class there. So really interesting storylines, maybe. So we'll see what happens. Maybe look out for an MXON pod here in a couple weeks. And that is it. Thanks for listening to Not Another Moto Pod. If you want to follow us on X, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, at Not Another Moto Pod.